This is Dr. Disrespect, one of the most famous and ruthless gaming live streamers on the planet. And we're about to find out if his bourbon, Black Steel, is disrespectful to my taste buds.
Disrespect.
My name is TJ Gamble and you've stumbled into Brewzle. In this video, I'm gonna try Black Steel and rank it on 5 different criteria. We're gonna assign it a Brewzle score and see how it stacks up against the other whiskeys we've reviewed. Dr. Disrespect is a character created by Guy Bean. He's one of the largest YouTube gaming streamers with over 4 million subs and counting. He's known for his signature look, over-the-top personality, and playing first-person shooter games like PUBG and Call of Duty.
I don't know what else to say. I look good today.
The doc loves his bourbon, and he has a huge loyal following, so it only made sense and was just a matter of time before he created his own label. With a lot of celebrity whiskeys, they're just cash grabs, right? Follow the George Clooney, Casamigos model, use celebrity to build a brand, get distribution, and then just sell it out for hundreds of millions of dollars. This feels like it could be very different from that, though. Doing the research on this bottle, it really seems like no corners were cut whatsoever. They're not really trying to build a brand. They're trying to make a great product. I don't watch a lot of game streaming online, but what I do know about Dr. Disrespect, and I appreciate, is that he seems to go all out with everything he does. The over-the-top personality, the production value on the game streaming, like this guy does not know how to tiptoe into anything, and that resonates with me because I very much want to be the same way, although I rarely have the budget to go all in on anything. Black Steel claims Mary Ann Eves as its master distiller, and Mary Ann was the first female master distiller since Prohibition. She worked for a lot of years at Brown-Forman before she was eventually taken under the wings of Chris Miller, master distiller at Woodford Reserve, to be his protege. Under Chris's tutelage, she gained master distiller within a year, and a short time thereafter became the master distiller at Castle and Key. It all boils down to she knows what the hell she's doing, and I don't think the doc could have made a better selection. But good whiskey takes time. Normally when you're starting a brand like this, you're just gonna source someone else's whiskey. Go buy their barrels of whiskey, pop it in your own bottles with your own label, and get it to market so you can generate some revenue to build something bigger in the back end. But as we'll see in a second, this bottle says it was distilled by Black Steel themselves. I don't know if they built their own small distillery, if they had somebody contract distill it, or if they're just getting creative with the labels. If anybody has any clarity around where this whiskey actually came from, I'd love to know more. What matters is it any good? Let's look at the bottle. On the front, an emblem that reads Black Steel, born of strong, wild-blooded craft, locally crafted with feral ingredients in the heart of Kentucky. And then Black Steel in big lettering. Small batch Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, bottled and distilled by the Black Steel Spirit Co. On the back, a bottle number at the top, and then Black Steel is a bourbon born in Kentucky, raised by wild-blooded masters of craft. An absurdly smooth, beautifully ridiculous bourbon that balances true whiskey tradition with eccentric innovation. Black Steel is enveloped with notes of sweet grain, charred wood, green apple, vanilla bean, and citrus peel. It's a delectable, sensational profile that whispers in your ear, "We belong together." Crack the seal and take it for a ride. You finally found the untraditional, traditional bourbon you've been searching for. All right, they're selling the hell out of that, aren't they? There's no real transparency on the bottle though. No mash bill, no age statements, no real clarity around where it's distilled. They just give us some idea of the tasting notes and what we can expect in the bottle. This comes in at 93 proof, so it's at a bit of a disadvantage already when it comes to our Brewzle score because we do tend to skew toward metrics that do better at higher proof points. But some of these lower proof bourbons have batted above their weight class. We'll just see how this one holds up. MSRP of this bottle is $65, but good luck getting one. Like they dropped them online and they were gone almost immediately. And it took us a few little shenanigans to actually get one because they didn't ship to Alabama, so I had to have someone get one for me and then, work around actually getting the bottle from them. So it took us a little while to get it, but we do finally have one here for review. Now, I'm kind of jealous. I don't know how many bottles they actually released. I don't know if they just did a limited release to see how it would go, or if they went fairly big and they still sold out in a matter of minutes. I mean, the dude has 4 million subs. He gets tens of thousands of viewers on a live stream. He could probably sell out a pretty big release fairly quickly. So jealous of that. We don't have that kind of clout. I wish we did. I wished I could sell out a limited release that quickly. Someday we're gonna have our own label, our own brand, and we're gonna try to do this, but we're gonna have to build some clout first. As I mentioned, we're gonna be judging this bottle on 5 different criteria, but before we get into that, it really helps me out if you hit the like button on this video. Maybe subscribe if you haven't done so. Also, we're trying to take this channel up. Maybe we could get to a point where we can have our own freaking label. Y'all support on things like YouTube channel memberships and Patreon really help us do that. We've also got a free Discord server where we just hang out and talk about bourbon, so if you're into that, you're welcome to join that as well. As always, link to that stuff is in the description. Also, if you want to help me with my bourbon budget, you can get cool merch like our Bourbon Hunter shirt at Brewzle.com. All right, that's enough talking. Let's get to drinking. Get a nice hefty pour there in our Brewzle Glencairn. Takes a little whiskey to get the review right, you know? You can't just make small pours. And the first criteria is aroma. Well, they don't give us any nosing or aroma notes on this particular bottle, so we're on our own here. Overall, a pleasant smell. I get a lot of light citrus flavors, a little bit of oaky caramel notes in there. It's pretty good. It's not like overwhelmingly strong. It's a little muted and tame, so I give it a 6. The next criteria is taste. And this is the most important one. What does it freaking taste like? Well, they say black steel is enveloped with notes of sweet grain, charred wood, green apple, vanilla bean, and citrus peel. All right, let's try it. And I would agree, a lot of those notes come through. Definitely a little oakiness through the mid palate. I get that kind of green apple citrus peel on the finish. There's not really super pronounced flavors. Overall, it's really well balanced. And I think for the market they're going for, like they're really aiming this at folks that are just getting into bourbon or maybe a little disenfranchised with what's out there. And so this is like a perfect middle of the road bourbon. This is nothing that's gonna be off-putting. Like there are no flavors there that are so strong you either have to love those or hate those to enjoy this whiskey, but at the same time, there's no real strong defining characteristic that makes it stand out. But the flavors that are here are actually really solid, and I give it a 6. The next criteria is complexity, and how does this whiskey evolve? And this is where we typically skew toward higher proof whiskeys. But the texture on this whiskey is actually incredible. Like it really coats the palate well, but that kind of velvety smooth texture is what's the most remarkable thing about this whiskey. And I think that helps the complexity of it some as well. Overall, complexity wise, I give it a 5, which is actually a really good score for something at 93 proof. And the next criteria is mouthfeel. And what we're looking for here is that kind of thickness or that viscosity. And this is what's most surprising about this bottle, is that it is just buttery smooth. Like it coats the glass unlike any 90-something proof whiskey I've ever seen. It's like a syrup, it's so thick. And it really takes what's a pretty good whiskey and makes it exceptional in that you just don't get that smooth, thick, viscous mouthfeel at this low of a proof point, so I give it an 8. And the next criteria is finish. What does it leave you with after you've consumed the whiskey? And again, that texture and smoothness of it just make that finish linger forever. And so you get kind of that green apple, a little bit of that orange peel, definitely some caramel oakiness. Like it just never goes away. Now there's not that like defining characteristic that I'm looking for to take it any higher, but this is a really good finish and I give it a 7. Before we get into the Brewzle score, this is one of those bourbons that makes me want to stop reviewing bourbons, or at least rethink how we're doing these reviews, because there's nothing on the flavor that just makes this jump out as, oh my God, that's exceptional. But when you have one aspect of what we're grading, like the mouthfeel on this, that is so freaking exceptional, that is like so much above anything else we've had at this proof point, like it just makes me want to figure out a way to reward that. Like how should we celebrate how special that aspect of this whiskey is? Now, if the flavors were bad, okay, that's one thing, but the flavors are pretty good. But the viscosity and thickness on this whiskey just make it freaking exceptional. I don't know how to account for that in this score, right? It's just not an easy thing for me to account for. So I'm gonna figure that out. Like we're gonna continue to tweak and do some things with this score to try to continue to make it better for folks. But like flavor-wise, this is a good whiskey. Mouthfeel-wise, this is exceptional. Individually, I think the scores I gave it are fine, but because you have like that one aspect that is just beyond what other whiskeys in this category do, you know, it's just buy a bottle. Like, you buy a bottle, you try it, batch 1, first release of Black Steel, you let me know if you feel the same way. That gives this a Brewzle score of 32 out of 50. And a lot of people want us to make this out of 10, so it's just easier to frickin' remember and understand. And that is a 6.4 out of 10. And that puts it tied here with Larceny Barrel Strength B522. This little 93 proof whiskey held its own against Larceny Barrel Strength. Now, the barrel strength has some distinct flavors you may or may not love, but like, you just gotta try this whiskey.